Good evening. Let's give attendees a bit of time to join in. We use today for the first time the Zoom application, so it's a bit different than previous times. Maybe as a kind of initial, we'll repeat that later on as well. If there are any questions throughout the presentation or the branch updates, please use the Q&A either on top or in the bottom of your screen. You can type your questions in there. We will get back to the questions. If there are any questions that we are not able to answer immediately, or if the amount of questions are large, then we will get back to you on a later moment with that. I see that the number of participants is not increasing at the moment, so let us start. So welcome at the 115th branch meeting of the UAE branch. Today we will have a presentation on microplastic pollution by Santosh and by Tanvi from EHS Consultants. And prior to that, we will go through the introduction and the branch updates. And at the end, we will answer all your questions that are put in the Q&A. As a first update, always happy to see, and I mentioned that month on month, we see an increase in followers compared with last month. Another 60 followers signed up for the LinkedIn page, and I'm very happy to see that we're now over 1,700 members on LinkedIn. That means that we can reach out to a large number of colleagues, and I hope that we continue to grow with our LinkedIn page. But it looks promising month over month, in an increase of new followers, so that's good. I think another worthwhile branch update to mention is that Double IRSM, together with a few other organizations, formed an alliance to promote better safety, health, and well-being for all. I think this is a very good initiative. The alliance in itself committed to supporting good practice that already prevails, but also developing and implementing new programs, initiatives, and activities. So I think that's being part of this alliance as an organization will benefit all of us, and definitely something to keep following via our website, or if there's something really interesting to report on this or to inform you, we will definitely do that via the normal channels as WhatsApp and our LinkedIn page. But I think it's a good way forward that this alliance is formed, and let's hope that we all benefit from it in the best way. Another important topic for the UAE, but for the wider region as well. It's hot out there. I've spent today some time outside, and it's getting really hot during the day. Tomorrow, it's the 15th of June. That will be the day that the midday break will start for the 19th consecutive year in the UAE. 15th of June, 12:30 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. No works to be carried out under direct sunlight between 12:30 and 3 o'clock, as I mentioned, and that lasts until the September 15th. More information on that specific degree can be found on the website, which the link is provided on this slide. And then it's good to know as well that working around it can have consequences. Violators can be fined. Companies, in addition, can face the possibility to be downgraded and temporarily stopping its right to function. So the UAE takes this very serious. I know that 15th of June, the midday break will also start in our neighboring country, Saudi Arabia. And it already started in Qatar on the 1st of June. So yeah, it's one of the important measures taken by the government during the hot summers. Anyone who looks for more information, I put here the information that I could quickly find on the Abu Dhabi Public Health Center website. They have a lot of information on safety in the heat, how to prevent heat stress, different languages, information on the midday break. So that can be used to share with your employees, with your colleagues. It's freely available, so make use of that opportunity. And let's make sure that we all go to a safe summer without any incidents related to the summer heat. As we're nearing the summer break as well, there are just 2 more training sessions scheduled. Managing risk, the essentials, June 20 and 21st, both days from 9 a.m. to 11:30. And keep in mind, these are UK timings, and a training session on embedding staff well-being on the June 27th. Then IRSM will also go into a summer break with regards to training, and then pick it up again on the 19th of September with managing risk, the essentials, followed by managing health and safety risks, the essentials, in October of this year. If you require any more information, either have a look at our website or send an email to training@irsm.org for more information. Branch meetings, it seems that similar to the training sessions, we will go into that summer break. For this month, there are 3 more branch meetings, international branch meetings scheduled. The one in Saudi Arabia scheduled for June 20 on driving safety culture improvement. I think very important topic. I see in the UAE over the past couple of years a huge improvement. I'm happy to see that similar initiatives are taken in Saudi Arabia. So might be worthwhile in attending our colleague session in Saudi Arabia. And then there is another branch meeting, Qatar branch meeting on the June 27th, and a India branch meeting on June 29. In Europe, UK and Europe, we have a East Midlands branch meeting on June 19, good governance in health and safety. The London branch will have a similar kind of branch meeting on June 21 on driving, in this case, driving and riding for work. And then there are, for the month of July, 2 sessions scheduled. The Wales branch meeting July 3rd and the Yorkshire branch meeting on July 10th on the building safety reform. All branch meetings are free to attend. Just sign up as you do for our branch meeting. You get an invite with a link to the meeting and then attend if you have time or if there's a topic of interest. Any of the previous branch webinars are available on our website or on our YouTube channel. So if you would like to review one of the previous branch meetings, go to our YouTube channel and all the information, all the seminars, webinars are recorded and over there available. Membership benefits, I keep mentioning this on a monthly basis. Our membership comes with a couple of benefits. I think worthwhile to look into that for those who are not yet a member. And I keep repeating until Julie or the UK office tells me that it's not valid anymore. There's still a 20% discount on the annual membership if you use the UAE 25 code. So that might be the part to just get you on board and get your membership. As I said, a lot of benefits. Have a look at our website and do sign up if you know, to become a member. Our branch meetings. Next one is scheduled for July 12th, and then we go into August 9 and September 13. We continue with the second Wednesday of the month as our branch meetings. We're already working on the July 12th branch meeting. I hope that towards July, August, we may be able to even do a face-to-face meeting, but we will keep you informed on that via our social media channels as WhatsApp and LinkedIn page. And again, being a members organization, we would like you all to get involved, whether that's a suggestion or presenting a topic, share a best practice, especially now with the summer heat. I would really appreciate if there are members out there who are now with us that say, I would like to use, whether it's 5 or 10 minutes, just share your best practices on what you do in your organization on summer heat. What specific kind of actions have you taken? How does that, evolve within your organization? So if there's anyone who wants to present just 5 or 10 minutes their experiences on, for example, summer heat awareness in the organization, feel free to reach out to me, and we can, put you within the next meeting just to give an update. The same applies for, I would say, anyone who followed any of the trainings with double RSM. If you want to share your experiences, the added value of a training, please reach out to me, and we can allocate a couple of minutes, 10 minutes in the next meeting as well for you to share your experiences and maybe convince colleagues that it's very worthwhile to attend one of these trainings as well. As I mentioned in the beginning, for this month, we have a presentation by Santons and Tanvi from EHS Consultants on microplastic pollution. I think in the in the current situation where we are, where sustainability becomes a more and more important topic, I think a very valuable topic to receive a presentation on. And I would like to hand over to, I think Tanvi will be first, so I will stop sharing my presentation. And Tanvi, if you can share your presentation, then we continue with the presentation on microplastic pollution.
I'm on standby.
Yeah.
Hi. Is my screen visible to all?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay. Welcome to our presentation on microplastics, a pollutant of our time. Over the years, we have seen plastic production increase by a great percentage. And with plastics, we have microplastics. So our talk today will cover what these microplastics are, the sources of microplastics, how they become a pollutant, the threat to us specifically and its relevance in our life, and the preventive measures we can take to prevent a further escalation of these plastics. So, what is a microplastic? Any bit of plastic that is less than 5 millimeters in size would be considered a microplastic. Now, this can be formed either by degradation of a larger plastic or by a direct production measure, like when you're making an actual plastic or making an item of clothing. Any process that also makes about a 5 millimeter size of plastic will be considered a microplastic. Microplastic or plastic production has increased by about 9%. If you want to put this in long-term perspective, in the 1950s, around the time when we began plastic production, we were producing 1.5 million metric tons of plastic. And now we're producing about 300 million, which is a huge escalation. Of this, we're only recycling 9% again. The rest of it end up in incineration pits, in landfills, or just carelessly dumped into our oceans. If we have to consider urban areas, suppose one where there's heavy industrialization, let's take an Asian country for this example, which is Bangladesh. A study was conducted in Bangladesh where various industries, various soil samples, water samples were collected and analyzed. What was found was that textile industries contributed about 35% of microplastics into the environment, followed by tires, city dust, road markings, marine coatings, and the 2% are surprisingly from cosmetics and other miscellaneous items. Okay, road markings is something that I found to be really peculiar because all of us see these markings on our day-to-day life as we drive down the road. The yellow lines, the white lines, these yellow solid lines that we're not allowed to cross, the arrow marks. All of these can further disintegrate into the smaller plastics that you see on your right side. This can be from heat, from the sunlight. It can be from just heating of the tar of the actual road. It can also be from UV degradation, again, sunlight, or even the pressure that the cars put on the road every day, the large number of vehicle movement. These small plastics are then carried via dust in the air into the soil, or when it rains or when there's a water spillage off the road into the soil. Now, this contaminates the soil. It also contaminates the underground water table, polluting two sources. Let's look at the next one, which is textiles. In our current times, our clothes are no longer 100% natural fibers. We have polymer blends. These polymer blends include plastics. During the production process itself, our clothes get dyed, obviously. And after it gets dyed, it gets rigorously washed with large quantities of water to ensure that the dye is not retained 100% and leaks in later stages. When the clothes get rigorously washed, the textile fibers break down, as can be seen at the bottom left corner, and they form small plastic bits, about 5 millimeters in size, which we now know as microplastics. This enters water streams. And no matter how great of a wastewater treatment plant you have, no matter how great of a filtration system you have, you cannot eliminate all of the plastics at the end. Only about 94% of the plastics get trapped within the filters within the process. In the same case study that was conducted in Bangladesh, one where you took an initial sample, which is at the raw wastewater, it had about 150,000 microplastics present in it, whereas the effluent, the end results, still contained about 131 microplastics per liter. This shows that no matter how good a filtration system, like I said previously, you will still end up with microplastics in your water. And given our increasing demand of plastics, given our increasing population, and given the amount of water we are treating, this number is not a small number and should be taken very seriously. The plastics are not only polluting our oceans, it's polluting our groundwater through multiple different streams. For example, like I had mentioned earlier, a lot of our plastics are getting incinerated just so that they don't end up in landfills. When these plastics are incinerated, they form smaller plastics in the air, which then deposit across the land, which contaminates the soil, which coats the plants, which are then eaten by smaller organisms, which are then eaten by larger organisms, which may get eaten by us. So it does enter our system. Even if you take landfills, the way a landfill works is you have waste over which a layer of soil is placed, over which a layer of waste is placed, and this process continues. Over time, due to the natural activity in the soil, a lot of these plastics get broken down. These plastics then enter your soil, which are then eaten by smaller organisms, eaten by larger organisms, and then eventually may end up on our plates. The same way, the same microplastics in the soil that can be from either atmospheric deposition or via landfills can contaminate our groundwater. We have already seen how wastewater treatment plants cannot completely eliminate microplastics in our water. It will still end up in our rivers and oceans and seas. Let's look at an example of our ocean. I'm not sure of how many of you are aware of this, but there is a place called the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Now, where is this? This is off the coast of America, between the Caribbean and Hawaii. It is the largest of 3 offshore plastic accumulation zones in the world. It is rumored to carry about 1.15 to 2.41 million tons of plastic, just this one patch, which is about 1.8 trillion pieces of plastic. So if you further break it down, to put it in perspective, is about 250 pieces of plastic per person, approximately. Can you imagine how much of waste there is in just this one pile? And now we have 3 of them. Let's consider how this happens. We all know how ocean currents work. We see it happening every time we go to the beach and we see waves. These same waves that take away plastics from our beaches also deposit plastic on our beaches. These same wave movements or ocean current movements happen across the world. And then in certain areas, they form vortexes, or areas where these currents coincide. And in these central areas, you have the garbage that accumulates. One of them is a Great Pacific Garbage Patch. You have another one in the Indian Ocean, and then you have another one close to Indonesia. So you have a total of 3 in the world, of which this is the biggest. Now, how is something in the ocean or something deep down in the water wells a big issue to us, or something that is far, far beneath the surface that we survive on? All of us keep water bottles in our car, right? All of us have plastic bottles that we fill with water and we leave it in our car, especially during the summer months. And all of us in Dubai know how hot our cars get. What happens when plastics get heated? Plastics melt. Where do the melted plastics go? Not into the air or into the rest of the car, but instead into the water. These plastic bottles, before they even come to us, are already stored in hot warehouses, are already transported outside in the heat via trucks. And then we continue to store them in our car in a heated environment, further melting these plastics into the same water that we then consume. You can imagine how much of a threat that is. We currently produce over 1 million plastic bottles a year. And you might be considering that this is a threat of the future, or this is something that will enter our systems later or further down the line. We will see how that is something that is no longer true. The plastics that exist in the ocean, or the microplastics specifically, attract a great number of chemicals. All the chemical pollutants that we have been dumping into our water streams easily collect around and get absorbed into these small plastic particles, which are then consumed by small fishes. These small fishes are then consumed in larger quantities by another smaller fish, which is then consumed by a medium-sized fish, which is then consumed by a larger fish. Now, the second organism might consume, say, about 1,000 pieces of the smaller fish. If the smaller fish has about 10 pieces of microplastic in it, the next level will have about 10,000. The level above that might consume, again, another, say, 100 of these fishes. So we go from 10,000 to 100,000, sorry, to 1,000,000. And now we have 1,000,000 pieces of plastic in a singular organism, which we might consume or might get consumed by a higher organism, which then later may end up on our plates. At this rate, we would be consuming a great number of microplastics just through other organisms. In a recent study conducted over last year, in Netherlands, about 20 people were observed, and of the 20 people whose bloods were donated for scientific research, it showed that 17 of them possessed microplastics in their blood, of which most of the percentage was of PET. For those of you who may not be familiar, PET is basically what our bottles are made of, our single-use bottles, that is. And then there were a certain other a smaller percentage of polystyrene. So all of the waste that we are making currently and all the waste we will be making in the future is affecting us in today's time. What can we do about this? We have been told this numerous times: refuse, reduce, reuse, repurpose, recycle. Let's cover, say, 3 of these. Let's take refuse. Refuse to take plastics when you can take other alternatives. You now have metal straws, both which are pretty and come in multiple different shapes. You also have paper straws, and you have bamboo straws as well. You can always use metallic cutlery instead of single-use plastic. And then the most common is the jute bags and the paper bags. Even as party favors, there's no need for the frill and the pomp of having plastic wrappers. Just the gift by itself is sufficient. Even though it's a reduced number these days, you still have a lot of pamphlets and flyers that are circulated through subscriptions. It's easy enough to cancel these subscriptions, reducing the waste in our houses and the amount of plastic produced. Repurpose. A lot of people are doing this these days where they're creating vertical small gardens, which is a good way to use the plastic that will last for long periods of time in a safer environment. Recycle. Now, there are many ways that we're recycling. Here's one, which is a chemical mechanism, where the plastics are segregated at the source, and then they take into industries where they're broken down into their chemical forms and then recreated into other forms of plastic, and then that cycle continues to happen. What's important to consider is the segregation at home, is the washing of these plastic bottles that you intend to have recycled. Because if you have biocontaminants on these plastics, the same plastics that you are hoping will get recycled actually end up in landfills or in incineration pits and not getting recycled. The same population that we have in the world right now that is causing this demand for plastics and causing the increase of production and causing the pollution, if each single individual can then add on to the recycling movement, we can definitely try to move the needle way past the 9% at where we have stagnated over the years. Thank you. So that concludes my part of the presentation. I'll be now handing it over to Santosh, sir.
Good evening, everybody. Hope I'm audible to everyone.
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Thank you. And my screen is visible. I believe.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
Also.
Thank you. Once again, I'm Santosh, and I'm gonna take it from where Tanvi stopped, actually. This is not a simple topic. It's a vast topic which we need to be aware about. So we are talking about going plastic free. Now you see that globally, all the governments are taking initiative that single-use plastic needs to be banned, and a lot of initiatives are taken by different governments to control the use of plastic, specifically the single-use plastic, which is made available in supermarkets and grocery stores. So I would like to take you through a small session where I will share my experience with you. We just want to think about, are we really going plastic free? Now you see all these kind of awareness campaigns by different companies, by different organizations, which talk about keeping the sea plastic free, taking care of the planet, stop plastic pollution. We also discuss about a lot of marketing and awareness campaigns run by different organizations and companies. Uh, I'm not sure how much of that is delivered to the common people, because it was only 10 years back where I started getting deeper into the subject and thinking about the whole scenario in a different way. Now, you'll be shocked to know that even in the Antarctic snow, the researchers have found that the freshly fallen snow also contains microplastics, which is really alarming. And then we already explained to you how the microplastics gets bioaccumulated in smaller organisms, and it moves in the food chain. So we are just waiting for this to happen, because already the microplastics are in our blood, and once this reaches the alarming level, we will not have any medicines to take. We don't have to take any medicines further, because it is very difficult to rectify these problems which we are creating for ourselves. So we have to be very careful at this point of time. So if you look at the overall scenario, almost 8 million metric tons of plastic waste enters the ocean, and almost much more than is mixed up in the soil. That means if you're looking at bioaccumulation through fish, you are also looking at the bioaccumulation through other organisms, the meat we eat and other things. Even the water which we drink is getting polluted. So the situation is really alarming, and we have to really work on this with speed and with precise predictions based on how we can get out of the scenario which exists right now. I'm just taking you to my experience, which happened almost 10 years back. One of our client, they were making fillet out of the fish, and they found something unusual within the fish. They found some globules within the fish, and they wanted us to investigate the case. And our bioscientific research team got involved. We collected the samples, and we found that this is not in one fish. There are a lot of fish. Like, the fish mainly moves in schools, like in big groups. And we randomly collected the samples, we checked, and most of the fish, they had this kind of accumulations. And initially, our investigation was very specifically to pathogenic kind of things. Is this any kind of infection which the fish got, or is a kind of microbiological issue which the fish is facing? But later on deeper investigation, what we found is that these are microplastics and the chemicals, petrochemicals, which are accumulated within the fish, which is almost ready as a fillet in one of the supermarkets waiting for us. Okay, so where this came from, where did they came from, the microplastic? That's the question which Tanvi already answered, that it can be from any product which we use in day-to-day life, which is there in our environment, from road markings to the supermarkets. Whatever we buy in plastics. So now how we deal with it? Now we have to reduce the environmental impact related with the plastics by understanding the whole game, how it can be managed well. Now you see that a lot of plastic waste ends up in oceans, in landfills. So this is exactly where we have to intervene. Now you see that this is really dangerous, because now it is started accumulating in each and every organisms, and it's almost reaching us in different forms. Now What I want you to understand is that, for example, now with the government initiatives, now we go to a supermarket, we don't buy those carry bags. Yeah. But you see, everything and anything which is available in the supermarkets are already packed in plastic bags. From vegetables to any grocery item, you see the primary and secondary packaging is in plastic. So we are not actually, plastic free. We are not going plastic free because the production of these food and consumable items are increasing on daily basis. So the use of plastic is also increasing simultaneously. The only carry bags which we are getting rid of right now. So from anything and everything we buy is containing, I'm just giving example, this is not the lone thing, but just giving example of the initiatives which we've taken. So just imagine how much of it can control by controlling only this carry bags. Yeah, but whereas majority of our products come in without carry bags, it will look like this, which is again another heap of plastic. So the ban on single-use plastic will not alone work. What we have to do is that we have to be more aware of the situation, and let's see what are the best alternative. The best alternative is to create awareness at all levels. That means you have a cradle to grave system, which is not a right practice in terms of plastics. Here, it should be cradle to cradle, wherein you have a manufacturing, the distribution, the use, and then it goes from use to recycling directly. That means we have to minimize the indiscriminate disposal of plastics, and also we have to prevent the plastic from reaching the landfill. That is the ultimate thing which we can do, because we cannot probably stop the use of plastic. So we have to be wise. We have to take this awareness to a different level where everybody is aware of the danger related with the microplastics and work towards a better environment. Yeah, you stay safe, and if you have any questions, you can ask. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Branko, are you with us?
I am.
Here we go.
Let me see, getting back in sharing my screen. Both Tanvi and Santosh, thank you very much for the insight in your presentation. I think we all realize that plastic is a polluter. Is what we see, what we, as you mentioned, many of our products are already wrapped in plastic. I think what many of us will not realize, at least on a day-to-day basis, is the effect of it on the environment and how it comes back into the food chain, for example, as fish, and then comes back to us consuming the fish. I think that's valuable. It's good to have that understanding that it's not only landfill, but in the end, it's affecting us and our health as well. And I think it really relates to, as I mentioned before the presentation, what is becoming a more and more prominent topic on sustainability. And yeah, we all have our own responsibility in it, privately, while at home, but as well, in our work environment. What can we do in our organizations to reduce not only the amount of plastic we use, but just work more sustainable? So I think very interesting. Thank you for your presentation. I quickly go to the Q&A. I see that there is a question on if the slides will be made available. Maybe Santosh, you can respond to that. Is that a option to have a copy of the presentation?
We can definitely provide. Anyway, you have the recording. The IARSM already publishes the recording, so the recording can be used as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for that. Let me see. Just going to the kind of roundup of the meeting. Again, we have a lot of channels in which we communicate with our members. I think the most used is our WhatsApp group with a lot of questions and discussions ongoing. There is a Twitter group, of course, our YouTube channel, and our LinkedIn page. If anybody has a separate question, you can always reach out to us as well via email, uaebranch@irsm.org. So yeah, please reach out. And again, as I mentioned before, if there's anyone amongst the participants today who would like to use 5 or 10 minutes to share a best practice, whether it's summer heat, whether it's a different topic, whether it's providing a feedback on a recent training followed via double ISM, please reach out to us, and we can easily allocate some time in our next branch meeting for you to, to present on that. I think that would be, yeah, one of my main goals to get well everybody involved as much as possible. That would be it. If there are no more questions, I don't see anything coming up in questions. Then I would like to thank you all for attending. Thank you, Santosh and Tanvi, for presenting. And I hope to see you all again on July 12th at 6 p.m. for our next branch meeting. Thank you very much.